Thank you all for coming. Our company is Unoceros. I'm not going to go into that necessarily, but there is something that I'm bringing from our company that we normally do, which is we do a form of really open and honest dialogue. And in doing so, it's generally a sign of respect, but it's not always comfortable. So the whole point of that is we have concerns with the space and believe it's possible that all of you building stuff for this space don't actually know what it is you're either doing or the technology that you're building. What the hell it's for. So the reason I would go ahead and say that to you guys is because you seem to be missing a lot of the messaging opportunities that exist out there. The value propositions are not making it to the average user at all. Like, they're constantly falling flat. And the technology obviously has some value, which is why it's made it this far. But if the first thing out of your mouth is something related to your coin price or a token sale or fundraising event, et cetera, when someone says, what is your cryptocurrency for? You're missing the point. The average person has no idea what it is that it does. And with that, you're making a lot of enemies from the wrong people. You've got Bloomberg that has never read or run a positive sort of press item on you guys. You've got Berkshire Hathaway that's talking about rat poison in dead babies in the same sentence as Bitcoin. And they're making the synonymous leap that Bitcoin is blockchain. Meanwhile, that Berkshire Hathaway is in the background investing and partnering up in projects in blockchain, but they're not making the correction in the mainstream media. You've got MSNBC, you've got an unbelievable number of enemies. You've actually done a great job in unifying across party lines, all against you, which is not cool, right? Like, we all like this tech, that's why we're here. Aside from making the wrong enemies, then the enemies that adversaries, maybe not enemies, but adversaries that you should be taking on, you're not. When Zuckerberg's in front of Congress and he's up there testifying about security and privacy concerns, and there's no correlated article running about how blockchain company X can solve one part of what Facebook does through a highly secure, highly private method, you're missing it. And it's frustrating to see all that because that's incredible potential PR, right? You've got the big players up against the ropes. Today, just today, literally today, Facebook is rating the trustworthiness of its users on a scale from 0 to 1. So Facebook, the least trustworthy entity on the planet that we can think of right now, is now in charge of rating your trustability. Why is that possible? Right? This shouldn't be happening. These guys built important pieces of technology as it relates to information technology. And 70s, 80s, 90s, that's what was missing in the world, was information access. And that got built. And the thing that got missed was security, privacy. And that wasn't intentional miss, right? And it's something that we know doesn't back into current states of technology very well. A centralized infrastructure, centralized protocols that weren't designed from the beginning with security and privacy have a very tough time in retrofitting to accommodate this. There's patches, there's holes, there's lots of hacks, right? But these decentralized protocols, they start with that. They start with security, they start with privacy, they start with trust. So when Facebook says we organize people, but we do so in the most intrusive way possible, one of your blockchain companies should be out there running a press release that says, you don't need to use Facebook for this anymore, we can do this. And you will start finding a lot more users than the 1,000 or so that you've got. So we really need to start focusing on a message that makes a lot of sense and actually resonates. And the term information technology was super important to reformat the understanding of what it was that we were doing. If we called the internet data transfer protocols back then data transfer protocols and tried to get people excited about it, they would have lost their shit, right? They're not going to pay attention to you. They don't know what that means. And I think the same is true that if you're trying to sit here and advertise cryptocurrency and your token and your coin and blockchain, you're not creating a resonating message. We know you're not creating a resonating message, right? You've proven this over and over and over again. You need to reformat the dialogue and reformat the language in a way that our parents or our kids are going to understand, which is ownership and responsibility technology. And that's really what this stuff is, right? It's not a new way to move money. It might facilitate ways to move money, and that's fine. But there's plenty of ways to move money that work right now. What's missing is me having access to privacy controls, me having access to permissions, and me having access in such a way that when I do the thing that creates the privacy, I know it works, and I can trust that it works. If I go into Facebook right now and I flip a setting that says don't track me on X, does anyone believe that happened, or do we all just assuming it's something akin to the elevator door close button? I pushed it, didn't really work. I hope it works. I don't really believe it works. So, our message is that you need to relabel this as ownership and responsibility tech. And if you do that, it will be friendlier and it will fit and it will be something that people will hear and understand. Thanks. Yeah. Yeah, and great, you moved it a little bit differently. What's important is how you moved it differently, right? So don't fucking call it cryptocurrency. That's not it's not an exciting way. It's not going to get anyone excited, or moreover, it's going to turn people off, right? If it's a secure and privacy-based currency, at least you might start a conversation by putting out the thing that's missing. I don't have security. I don't have privacy, right? I know when I do all these online purchases that someone's tracking it all over the place. Can you give me a way to buy something without having it tracked? If you can do that, great. Everyone here has tried to create logins. If you built a product, you've got to do a login of some sort, right? Have you ever tried to do a login without an email or without a phone number or without a social login? Try and create a unique identifying login such that you can get information back to the user when you need to. They can contact you when they need to. You can push updates, you can understand the analytics, but you can do it all in a way where it's perfectly clean of actually knowing any personally identifiable information. We couldn't find one. We tried to make a non-custodial sign-in. Ground up tech that we had to build. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't mean you have to redo your tech. It just means just pick the message, right? Like, how many installs do you have? If your message is right, you're gonna have, you should have plenty of installs, like hundreds of thousands or millions of installs. So we built a crypto wallet, we aimed it at security and privacy, and we did 600,000 in 2 months. So that message was just pointed at the one thing that it does well, security and privacy. We're not trying to advertise any of the other shit. Next thing is like, can I send messages securely and privately? From the beginning, do I have control of that? Cool. No one else, like, that's what the younger generations also don't have. Like, keep in mind, like, we grew up, everyone that's like, I guess the beginning of the millennials, right? So I'm 37, so I'm like right on the edge. But everyone that's like, late millennial and older, we grew up with privacy. That was like a thing that we had. You could get away from people, you could just ignore your phone. And we still, I hear people, I hear friends, we long for it occasionally. Right, like why did, it's not like kind of tangent here, but like why did Snapchat pop up? Because it destroyed information really quickly, initially. Right now they don't. But look at who their user group was. It was a user group that had never known privacy or security. So they were like, well, I can't get away from my parents anywhere because I got a phone on me everywhere I go and they can track everything I do, but at the very least I can send a message to a friend and it disappears. Are you telling me that's the pinnacle of security and privacy? Because it's pretty shit.
I think the emerging issues that are becoming more and more digital, right? Things that we hadn't really thought through as we were giving up all our data for likes, right?
Yeah. Well, like, we didn't know there was a trade-off to be had for information access, which was fair, right? Like, it was a much bigger concern to get people information access than it was to worry about some edge case associated with security or privacy. 1990 anything, you weren't worried about security and privacy because there was 10 people and their friends online, and that was it. Like, who gives a shit, right? Like, why didn't the initial internet security protocols have security and privacy written into them? Well, when you're transferring from one academic institution to another and you're calling ahead first on the phone line, I don't think it's a big deal. So.
Any other thoughts or comments before we let Devin go here?
The different events that we put on, the data privacy issue is coming up over and over again. So we've seen that kind of being a thing that's come through throughout the different panels and all the different markets, especially through the summers. So I think it's an emerging topic and issue. So what would you say? What's an action item for us to do, though, as we think about this message going forward?
Our whole thing is that you got to pick something like information technology and wrap it in that, right? You're not going to get through to the mass. You're not going to get through on cryptocurrency or blockchain at this point. It's a confusing statement because they want to know prices, they want to know tokens, they want to know all these different things. And when someone asks you what Microsoft does, you don't go, well, their ticker price right now is 106. No, I fucking asked you, what do they do? Yeah, their token sale was 106. This doesn't tell me anything, right? They build software, they do these things. Tell me about that product. And the cryptocurrency and blockchain stuff is now overloaded with token investment and stuff like that. And you can invest in a token that does a thing, but it has to do a thing. It's not strictly an investment vehicle. If it's strictly an investment vehicle with nothing behind it, then it's not an investment vehicle.
There was a term that kept coming up at the Silicon Valley event, and so we're all grown-ups here, so we can handle this. Shit tokens, right? So that was the term that kept coming on stage. So I think it's important, right? This is I think your message honestly is hard to kind of stomach a little bit because it's probably right on. So and at a conference, we want to keep it happy and light. But I think we need to be really aware that everything that's coming out through this space, be aware, right? There's been tons of scams. There's tons of money lost. There's security issues. There's all these things. So it's really important not to just jump head first into this space thinking that there are no risks. I mean, there's tons of uncertainty on many, many different levels. And I think that's the reason why regulators have been slow. It means why conventional investors are slow. This is to a large extent, this is why the big challenges to mass adoption of blockchain. I think until when it's mass adopted, we won't know that it's the underlying tech, right? I think, and we're many, many layers of UI away from that.
Well, and that's maybe part of my point here is we have to start moving the messaging away from the underlying tech. Blockchain is talking about the underlying tech. Cryptocurrency is talking about operations of the underlying tech. Move that away.
I wish this would be so much better, like a fireside. Anyways, we'll have to let you go here, but I think it's an important conversation. Will you be around a little bit if anybody wants to continue the conversation?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, round of applause for Devin.